Welcome to the Inside Story on Franchising, with valuable insights on how to create multiple streams of income through franchising and building businesses. Host Ricardo Matos has spent more than 25 years building businesses in multiple industries and helping other business owners succeed. His expertise and entrepreneurial know-how will educate and inspire you. On the show, Ricardo brings together industry experts and insiders who share solutions and strategies, along with a passion for helping entrepreneurs make the best decision when it comes to buying a franchise or any business opportunity, and much more.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome to the Inside Story of Franchise. This afternoon, we have Jonathan Spark, founder of Spark Law, worked in business law and helps small business with trademark, business information, ambition formation, copyright, and other various business-related laws. Prior to founding Spark Law, Jonathan worked at United States Department of Justice. He's extremely passionate about entrepreneurship and pride himself of his ability to find creative approach for everyday life. Welcome to our podcast, Jonathan. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. This is awesome.
Oh, awesome. I always like interviewing great minds alike and people who are striving for success all over the world and continue helping all those people who are in need of services and ability to expand and grow their business. So question, what can you tell me about yourself and who you are and what you are all about?
Oh man. Well, I'm a business attorney. We do everything for entrepreneurs under the sun. I kind of grew up in that environment as a kid. My folks started a company in '88, and now it's grown to like over 50 employees. But we were still licking the stamps, for all of our grassroots marketing plans back in there in the early '90s and everything. So it's near and dear to my heart to be an entrepreneur myself and get to coach and advise entrepreneurs through the process. My law firm specializes in that, and we've got 3,000 or 4,000 clients that we're able to help with all of their business stuff. So that means that not a lot is new to us, but when it is, it's exciting, and we get a lot of opportunities to just talk shop with other entrepreneurs, get their heads right, and rock and roll.
All right. So now, based on your experience, and you're working with hundreds of different franchisees and business owners, of course, what are some of the ways that you have helped them, that guide them to solve their day-by-day problems?
It really depends on the industry and the type of franchise that they have, of course. But most franchisees have some particular issues that might come up, and we can help out with that. Certainly, employment law stuff is a big one. Even if the franchisor supplies some kind of boilerplate contract that they can use, it might not be applicable to that state that they're in. So they might need to write their own, or you don't want to run afoul of like California employment laws, for example, which are totally different from Georgia employment laws. So every state is different. But we also help out with their trademarks, their just everything under the sun, business law, customer contracts, partnerships, a lot of partnerships.
Interesting. So you mentioned something very interesting. You mentioned California, you mentioned Georgia, and how many states do you actually currently practice?
We practice currently in 3. We're licensed to practice in 3. So if we had any commercial dispute, like a lawsuit or trust and estates work or whatever, we're good in New Jersey and Virginia, and of course Georgia, where we're headquartered. But most of it is transactional stuff that doesn't require necessarily a license in that state. So a lot of business owners will want to apply for registration in Delaware, even though they don't have any brick and mortar store Delaware. Kind of extra advantages, and pretty much any attorney can set up a Delaware company with a law degree.
So that brings up another question in relation to what you just said. So even though you are registered in 2 or 3 different states, you do services across the niche, and depending upon the niche or the need of certain things that they can be related to any other state. Because there are certain things that you can practice that don't have to necessarily be licensed within that state, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot that we can help with, and if we're pushing on something that's going to require a local attorney, we'll certainly use
Refer
our
to you.
network. We have thousands and thousands of attorneys across the United States, so we're
Perfect.
perfectly able to talk with them.
So, what are some of the challenges that franchisees continue to be encountering day by day that they're required to use a lawyer? I mean, besides from employment law.
All entrepreneurs, whether you're a franchise owner or a franchisee or, just a regular business owner, we all have to worry about the mindset headspace stuff, right? And we've been able to help out a lot of people with that. I've noticed that a lot of the franchisees to be, it's a difficult leap to go from that 9 to 5 W-2, salary, payroll, guaranteed benefits type deal that maybe they've had all their lives to an actual, payment from a franchise.
Yes.
And it can get so scary. It can be, you're really like a deer stuck in the headlights, just, I don't know what to do. I don't, and you're looking at all these numbers and trying to think about how you can make, 80,000 or something, because that's your budgeted minimum or whatever it is in the first 12 months. But getting to advise all these business owners, I've found that that's really a waste of time. I mean, you really don't need to worry about those types of things. All you need to worry about is, hey, what are your expenses for the next 2 to 6 weeks? Because it's not 80,000 likely. So what are your actual personal expenses that you need to make in this next small chunk of time? And then the math is a lot easier, and you can start figuring out, well, if I know that the franchise has X amount of, market share and customers that are gonna, come knocking on our door once we do this opening, and I only need to sell, 50 widgets in the first 6 weeks in order to pay all my bills, and even if I don't do that, there's credit cards, and a lot of people don't, when you're coming off of a 9 to 5 type job, the idea of putting something on credit is like scary itself, but we business owners do it all the time. So it's there's a lot of mindset work that we help with.
Help them to understand the possible legality they can incur due to the process of using different creditors or different bankers or even different uh, associated loans, right? So there's always a legality aspect within those pitfalls of different entities that you're using, from credit card transaction, from transaction the day by day for the business, from dealing with consumers, or I should say services vendor, right? They're dragging money away from you because you have to continue your business, but that sometimes can push you in a burden if you bought certain things but you didn't pay for. So there's also a legality implication. They may get a letter, a notification, right? That incur a change of their business model that can be sued, or they can be notified by a collection agency, and they're instigating. So you help them to how to mitigate those problems, right? In case they're behind on payments, you help them understand the legality, what they need to submit and send to that collector or to that vendor, so that you can continue striving your business and the credibility of your business doesn't diminish, which is key essential. One of the pitfalls a lot of franchisees and franchisors sometimes, especially with this pandemic, right? You know,
Yeah.
we receive so many PPP plans or programs or loans. Lawyers are very intricate part of that. What can you enlighten us on those conditions that we currently live in today that has affected the franchisees or franchisor, where a lawyer has to integrate or interject in, I should say, intervene in a process?
Obviously 2020 made a lot of problems, for retail stores, certainly, franchises for, haircut look at gyms, any place that people would normally have gone, for the past 100 years or so, since we had the last pandemic, which none of us are really old enough to remember very well.
Yeah.
I'd say it's pretty common for us to have to, negotiate some lease terms. Typically, as a franchisee, you would sign a lease with a personal guarantee on it. So that because your business doesn't have a ton of credit when you first set it up, the franchisor does, but the franchisor isn't the one signing the lease; it's you.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, so you're the one personally guaranteeing it. It's your name on everything, and if you projected that you would have hundreds of customers every week or so, and instead you're getting like 2 or 3. Obviously you're going to have a cash crunch and a problem there. And typically we found that a lot of landlords are pretty flexible. I mean, they don't want to let you out of the lease entirely, which I think makes sense. It might be a 4 or 7 year lease even, but they kind of understand that, hey, it's taken them a lot of effort to get the right people in their commercial space, renting it out.
Yeah.
And we're all kind of in this together.
Yeah.
So I found a lot of people that would extend the lease some. They might take out 6 to 9 months from the current payments, or pay like a smaller amount, or extend the lease 9 months out, but then not pay for 9 months, depending on.
So that brings up a question for me.
Yeah.
Forgive me that I interrupted, but I don't want to forget my final thoughts on this one. Now, are a lot of landlords, due to the fact that coronavirus took effect, you are seeing where lawyers are finding ways to create certain clauses on contract, on lease contract, where the renter and the landlord get in a situation where what we currently went through, the epidemic or pandemic, I should say, where there's new clauses in there embedded in case certain things happen, the rent or the services get diminished or cut back, or are you actually starting to see where those negotiations are becoming now a norm, or they're putting clauses in the contract that if anything states or happen, what are the penalties situation? I mean, are you seeing this happening right now?
Yeah, we really are. And I'd say it was kind of it changed every month, really, because a lot of the laws out there would there was a time when they weren't allowed to do they weren't allowed to kick people out. They couldn't do evictions even if the tenant wasn't paying, and that makes sense for
So right there, contracts were out the door when that happened, right?
Yeah. So that gave the franchisee a little more leverage, which is nice. But I'd say now, so originally you had what's called a force majeure provision, which said that if something totally unexpected comes up, like a pandemic, that frustrates the purpose of this contract to where one or the other party really can't do their part of the contract.
Yeah, it's like in the construction industry, we call it the unforeseen weather conditions, or the unforeseen act of God, right? That we have no control to abide by the contract due to the fact that we are currently in a situation where there's no way to control that. Because
so if the building that you're renting gets bombed by a terrorist, I mean, it's kind of like, well, let's rebuild, but obviously I'm not going to hold you accountable to the rent payments. And the pandemic didn't do that, thank God, but it had the same effect.
And of course that's a very good point, due to the fact that a lot of buildings have insurance. But it's not the same thing as when you rent a car, right? That if your car gets stolen and your insurance is gonna pay for it, but that means you stop making payments, even though it got stolen. You got to continue making the payment on a vehicle that got stolen, right? Until the insurance decides to pay the claim, if they pay the claim, right? Because what happens if they found it? If you stop paying for that car, that goes into the credit of the corporation or your business entity because it got found. Now the insurance doesn't have to pay for it. The only thing they have to pay for is for the repairs, if there's any damages to those vehicles. So in a rental aspect of a property, in a situation like we currently stated happened in the pandemic, uh, yeah, if you're not paying your rent, you still gotta continue making your payment, even though if your building is not there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you,
Yeah, and it's that's common advice that we lawyers give them. Like, I understand there's a dispute here. You're really angry at them. You feel like they don't understand, and that's all well and good. I agree, but you still need to make some kind of a payment, or come up with a plan with them so that they can't evict you. And if they evict you, typically a commercial lease will give them rights to the entire period of the lease. So all the payments for 5 years will come immediately due. So they can sue you for $250,000, and you owe it all immediately, even though your rent payment might have been $1,500 a month or something.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so it is important. You're right, Ricardo, that they continue to make payments. Really, just talk to a lawyer, because you don't know what you don't know, and the lawyer does, so they can help out. To answer your earlier question, I have seen that some of the newer leases that are created after, I'd say, like fourth quarter last year, that started to be written in October, November, usually include a carved out section for pandemics. They don't want to consider pandemics a problem anymore, because they had so many problems with their prior tenants. So it's kind of like, if you sign a lease now,
It's true.
yeah, I would not be surprised to see a provision in there that says, hey, if 2020 happens again, you know, it's still your butt. That's gotta
You're
pay
still
it.
liable, you're still responsible, right? So
Yeah.
the contracts are getting a little bit more nifty, right? Lawyers are getting more creative, and also lawyers have to be finding ways to negotiate, help those franchisees and franchise owners alike to continue making decisions on attaining properties to grow their business, right? Because in relevant to the fact that currently happened with all the pandemic and the landlords, we're starting to see lower prices in rent, lower prices in properties, entities, and so on, so that people can start evolving all over again within the business world. Now, what does the best advice can you provide for those who are interested in owning or investing in a franchise or starting a business?
What we talked about earlier with the right headspace, it's a glorious and wonderful thing to be a franchise owner, to be an entrepreneur, a business owner. Truly, it might not feel that way. It might feel very scary when you start, but if you can think of it, all of I'm sure that you've a lot of our listeners have talked with financial brilliant minds, or listen to their advice to diversify your portfolio, right? So there's this nugget of wisdom that says your investment should all be diversified, and that's true. It's better if you have a market swing and you're invested with everything in tech, for example, and tech plummets, you lose all of the value of your.
Diversify, yes.
Right. So they say, instead of that, put some in bonds, put some in stocks, put some in, real
Mutual
estate,
fund,
and
yeah.
so on. So it's the same as a worker. Okay. So if you're an employee at one job, that means all of your ability to make income is tied to that one boss. So
Yes.
if that boss has a bad day, he can let you go. He can fire you through no fault of your own, or
Yeah.
if he's a bad business owner and doesn't know how to pivot and like stay afloat, or if he's mean to your customers, and that makes you get fired because they have to do a layoff, like all of your ability to make money is with this one guy. But as a business owner, you have thousands of bosses, so to speak, and they're all giving you these tiny little payments, instead of it all coming from one source, you have thousands. So it's a wonderful thing, because if you piss off one guy, like, absent a negative review, you're probably going to be fine. If you get fired by one customer, the other 2 or 3 thousand are still going to love you and still going to buy your
You know,
stuff.
one of the advice that I give to every single person who owns a business, if you having a lot of vendors, who are constantly pressuring you to make payment of their bills and cover your debt. Never refuse to pay. Always telling you we'll pay them to work with you along the way or create a payment plan that does not affect your credibility as an individual, as a business owner, and continuous driving owner, right? Any
Yeah.
service you procure, any service you attain, you are responsible for it. You sign a contract, you abide for it. You know what? Pay the price. If it didn't pay out to you benefit, take ownership of that and pay it back. There's a lot of people out there who attain services and providers and certain things. They use it and they don't want to pay for it.
Mhm.
If it happens to every single business entrepreneur, business comes, business money goes. As money comes, money goes, and sometimes you're fighting to continue striving for your business, but sometimes you need all these vendors to establish business. One of the things that we do in the franchise State of Real Solution is to provide a lot of free tools where people can integrate all those tools within their business, so they don't have to hire a who can do the work for them. Instead, they can learn how to do it themselves, right? So
Wow, that's great. That's
yeah,
awesome.
exactly. So sometimes a lot of lawyers they provide a lot of insightful information that allows them to make the right decisions, and
Mhm.
allow them to understand what tools are needed out there they can do on their own and what other necessarily benefit from expert lawyers like you they can necessarily use you and hire you for those services. But
Mhm.
we're running out of time, and I want to ask you this: where
Okay.
can our listeners go to learn more about you? And who can connect with you. And I know that you have website, you have social media. Can you enlighten us a little bit on those means areas?
Yeah, absolutely. So our main website is sparkslawpractice.com, SPARKSLAW practice.com. That you'll find all our information there. My personal email for the law firm is jsparks@sparkslawpractice.com, but you're of course welcome to talk to any of our associates. You can reach us over the phone anytime, 470-268-5234. But yeah, it's good to have a lawyer in your pocket, just a go-to guy to bounce ideas off of or challenges you've got. And we love entrepreneurs, and anybody that wants to call, we're more than happy to talk with you, no charge. So
Well, Jonathan, I appreciate who you are, what you are all about. And thank you very much for being part of the Inside Story of Podcasts and keep sparking your life to others and enlightening with a great life and expectations. I appreciate you
thank
very much, man. Thank you very much and talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep
Thank
helping
you.
entrepreneurs. That's great. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
You've been listening to the Inside Story on Franchising with your host, Ricardo Matos. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. That way, you'll never miss a new episode, and you can help spread the word to more entrepreneurs like yourself. We really appreciate that effort, and we'll catch you next time.